Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers. Welcome home. Yet another episode of Shaking Your World. Again at the Magnificent Shakers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Glad to have you along for the ride. Today we have a political candidate, Orlando Owens, who has become a fast friend of Shakers. And he's got a heck of a message to tell because he is not as he may look to you. A sheep in wolf's clothing, certainly. But Orlando, welcome home. It's good to have you. And cheers. Let's have a fun chat.
There you go. Thank you again for letting me come out and hang out with you guys again.
Honored to have you. But first, we should talk about who you are and what you're running for.
Sure. So my name is Orlando Owens. I'm running for State Assembly, the 11th District here in Milwaukee. I am running as a Republican, which is definitely different these days. And I am a kid, grew up here in the city of Milwaukee, went to public schools for the most part, graduated from Morris Brown, historical black college in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a dad, married, and I'm a troublemaker sometimes, but good trouble.
Well, those are all magnificent things all by themselves, but you have another side to you as well.
Okay. I am a dad. I think I've said that one. What side I'm missing?
Something with a church, perhaps.
I am a minister.
Here we are.
There you go.
Which gives you a very unique perspective on life that a lot of people just don't grasp because you are all about the human condition.
Yep.
Okay. So, we're here to talk about you, your agenda, what you want to do, and how we can perhaps assist you in the process. So, take it away.
Well, I'm running in the 11th Assembly District. Jason Fields is the current person. He's not running for re-election, so the seat is open. Been knowing Jason for many, many years. The district is a moderate Democrat district, but I think a district in which is ready to hear a different message. Ready for people that can bring solutions, but also get things done. And so I think my candidacy is very unique. It's definitely one that reflects the time in which we're living right now. Times are very
tumultuous,
very much, and it's forever shifting and changing. So, as a conservative, I guess that's what people call it. I don't get too much into titles and labels like that too much. As an African American in America, I look at issues just what makes sense to me and what feels right. So liberal, I don't know if that a liberal is that because or progressive because I have a 27-year-old son who could tell me how to use Facebook and Instagram, or am I conservative because my grandmother, I still believe in some of the old teachings of the church. So too many labels, I think sometimes overdone on labels. Just do the right thing to help people.
From our conversation the other day, it seems to me that you are perfectly poised as the guy that can reach across that aisle and find a way to get something done. And I think that's something that we're missing so much today, is that we have divided things so much. You're a liberal, you're a conservative, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, and you can't seem to get along in anything. I think this country, more than any other time, needs to find a way to bridge that gap, reach across an aisle, shake someone's hand, and find out how to deal with someone as a person. It seems to me you are that guy.
Well, so our theme of our campaign, the slogan is people over party. And it really is an emphasis on the people part, right? People don't really care what party you are if you're here to do the right thing and help people. Republicans definitely trust me, and I have the respect of Democrats, which I think in those two worlds, that's very rare that because right now relationships are so torn and so tense. And so I do bring that uniqueness that I can understand both sides of it. I understand the need for having a fiscal responsible person, but also I can understand the need and how some programs can work if they're effective and managed correctly. So I see both sides, and I can walk that line. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't find people who can fairly give people just their space to say, I may not totally agree or totally understand everything, but at the very least, I have the capacity to hear you out and say, okay, I never thought about it that way.
Again, I can't agree more. And it's nice that you got to talk. What's your experience all about?
Say it one more time.
What's your experience like? What have you done to get to this position right now?
Wow. I've got the political bug pretty early in life. I ran for student government back in Wauwatosa West High School. I was part of the 220 program, and I became class president. My family had always been block captains and doing the community cleanup, so I've always been community-minded and community-based, so that was something always in the back of my head. My grandparents kind of instilled that, picking up garbage in the neighborhood, doing things like that. And so my first office I ran for was in high school, and became the class president. Fast forward, I go to Whitewater for a few years. Did a lot of partying in Whitewater. I love Warhawk state of mind, and didn't do so well, so I came back home and started working. I became a father, and so I said, you know what, I want to go back to school. And so I went to Morris Brown, Atlanta, Georgia. I walked onto the basketball team. You can't tell today, but I used to be a pretty serious athlete. But I walked onto the basketball team, and I made the team, and I was a starter. But I also was a business major, and so I ran for business student council. I became the vice president of that, and also I was the marketing club president. I'm a business major, and just getting active on campus. We had our own kind of protests on campus about different things. In Atlanta was this a shock. This blew my mind. Being a young African-American man, I had never seen black affluency like that before in my life. They had a black mayor, black police chief. I seen, black people doing well. And so often in our communities, in the inner city, urban areas, you only see one side,
right?
And that's the impoverished side. So you don't know, you can do better. The part that we do see the celebrities. We do see, unfortunately, maybe other individuals in our community who may not be doing things the right way, and we see those become our ideas of what success looks like. With the jobs pulling out of Milwaukee, I didn't see a lot of affluency. My grandmother and my grandfather did work, but my neighborhoods were definitely challenging as far as growing up. And so to get to Atlanta to see this, it just kind of was definitely a mind revelation for me to say, this is how black influence looks. Black lawyers, black attorneys, and black business people, I was just blown away. And I enjoyed my tour of the South. I also saw racism, like different. Down South racism is different, like up North racism. Down South racism, it's clear that you don't cross this line at a certain time of day.
Right.
And I, to be totally honest with you, I would rather you tell me where you stand. At least I can deal with you where you are.
Right.
The Bible talks about, you neither be lukewarm, neither be hot. Don't be lukewarm, be hot or cold. And God can deal with you from whatever vantage point you're up, but
right.
be whatever you're gonna be.
Right. Don't vacillate. Right.
At least in that condition down in the South, I knew where a man or a woman stood.
Right.
They knew where I stood too.
Sure.
But up north, it's different.
Right.
I call it like the soft bigotry. You kind of smile in your face but stab you in the back type of thing. Yep. And you never know where that comes from. You never know where it comes from. But I can tell you, man, my experience at Wauwatosa West also was an eye opener, because I had been to black schools all through middle school, elementary in Milwaukee. So Tulsa was my biggest experience around white people. And I found out something about white people. I didn't know it was so many types of different white people. They all look white to me. But you had the Polish, you had the Italians, you had the Irish, and I didn't know that until I got to that school and said, "Oh, you all look white to me." I didn't know there was differences, but it was very different. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. One of the things my grandmother had always taught me was, there's only two type of people in the world. Me being a dude, I was like, what, my grandmama, men and women? She's like, no, baby, good and bad. And you're going to have to figure out who's good and bad for yourself.
Right.
And she told me I've met some good black people in my life, and I met some bad black people in my life. I met some good white people, and I met some bad. But you're going to have to go through your own life experience and figure it out for yourself. And so that I've always kind of took that position. And when I got to Tulsa West, it was just really blown away. I was one of the very few minority students there. It just blew me away to say, okay. And then go from that experience to Morris Brown, an all black college. We had a few white people there, but it just really, I've had a very blessed life. And so that political bug continued on campus. I come home to Milwaukee, and my dad's a block captain. And Marvin Pratt, I don't know if you remember Marvin Pratt.
I remember Marvin well.
He was the alderman of the 1st District, and he had just announced that he was getting ready to run for mayor.
And a customer of mine, too.
There you have it.
Yep.
And my dad was like, I think I'm going to run for alderman. I was like, Dad, you should. You should do that. And learning, listening to him prepare for the campaign, and, me having some understanding of politics, student body politics at least, he decides not to. But I said, you know what, Dad? I think I'm going to pick up where you left off. And so I'll run for Marvin's seat that he's vacating. At the time, his aide, Ashanti Hamilton, was running. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know about the power of the incumbency. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand the power of, name recognition. Mm-hmm. But Ashanti kind of walked through that thing and won. And me being a glutton for punishment, the day I lost the day Ashanti won the general election, or the runoff, because it was nonpartisan, the very next day I started running for the next 4 years. I learned then that in order for it to be effective, you got to have volunteers, mm-hmm. you got to have money, mm-hmm. and you got to start early. And so I started knocking on doors, and people were like, well, didn't we just have an election like last week? I said, I know, but I'm preparing for the next 4 years. It was definitely an experience for me because in Wisconsin, we only got about 2 days of summer. So, rest of is winter, so you can't do anything. So I plotted out meticulously, like every summer I was going to get out and do doors, every mm-hmm. summer. And the next time I ran, I finally met Ashanti in the finals. I lost, but I thoroughly was at that point, I was in. And I can tell you that in that second run, I thought that I needed to be part of the party process. And me being African American, I thought that I was a Democrat, right? And so I joined the Democratic Party, and I went to the party meetings, and the things I heard just didn't necessarily kind of fit in my narrative. I'm a church kid, so there's a certain position that the church took a stand on certain issues. And right. That didn't mean that you don't discriminate against anybody, but it was a stance that the church took. Right. Also being a black college grad, I just seen black affluency. And so the message of that we needed a white savior as black people to come in and save black people, it rubbed me the wrong way tremendously. I was academic All-American at the school, so I wanted to have my own business and everything, and it just did not sit right. So on two principles, it really pushed me away, my faith and also my intellect. And so, I started to listen, believe it or not, I started to listen to Rush Limbaugh. And I was like, well, who is this Rush Limbaugh? I hear people talk about him all the time. And I sat and listened. I said, okay. I don't know if I would have said it that way, but he had a few points. I continued to listen a little bit more. And then I started listening to Mark Belling. I was like, oh, he's really raw. But at the core, what he's saying, I kind of agreed with some of the messages. And before I knew it, I said, I'm a conservative. Because I didn't know what conservative, liberal, I didn't know what that was. I said, I'm a conservative. And I kept listening a little bit further. And I said, I'm a Republican. I'm a black Republican. And it blew my mind from my maturation through the understanding of the political principles and philosophies. They lined up. Because most people of color, we tend to be more morally conservative but socially liberal. We believe in free markets. We want smaller government. We hate when the government gets in our business. We do support the idea of defending yourself in your home. We do support the idea of traditional marriage, but also we are socially liberal. So because we also have the economic piece that we have to battle with the other isms in the world. That, I'm with you on Sunday, Pastor, but come Monday I need my benefit card to kick in because I don't have the best job. And so I kind of, as black people, we just have a very fine line that we don't squarely fit in either party too well. We toss around these terms, liberal versus conservative, and for black Americans, I don't know if we really fully embrace anything totally, and that's what I find myself now here. I work for the state party. Back about 6 years ago, I was a volunteer for the state for many campaigns on the Republican side. My very first campaign was Judge Prosser. And I can remember walking into the Wauwatosa branch office. I didn't know where to find the Republicans. And since I was a Wauwatosa grad, I was like, well, maybe. And the first one that popped up was Wauwatosa. And the guy passed away, God rest his soul, Bill Burdad. His wife is an alderwoman now. I think she's still there. And I went into the Republican office, and everybody's heads turned when I walked in. The only black man walked in there. And the people said, well, can I help you? I said, yeah. They said, how can we do so? I said, I came here to help. They were like, okay. And I'd had a great time ever since. I started working for the state party probably about 6 years ago as the African American state director. It was a quasi position between the state party and the RNC. It was a project that was created by then Chairman Ryan Priebus, who was the state party chairman at one time, but at that time he was the chair of the RNC.
Sure.
And the Growth and Opportunities Project was the name of this project. It came after a loss to Romney loss, and what the Republicans wanted to do was take this deep dive and like, how do we lose and where do we lose? And they saw that we didn't connect with African Americans, Latinos, Asians, women, college students, homosexual and the lesbian community. We didn't connect, and we need to do something about it. And so Ryan's went on this spree of doing a series of listening sessions. And he created this thing called the Growth and Opportunities Project, and I was hired on to work for the RNC. Had a great time. I didn't know how many white people lived in Wisconsin until I started traveling in the state, and it said, there's a lot of white people here. I didn't know how big the state was. So that job took me all over the state looking for pockets of black people.
Sure.
And there were 3 pillars that I thought that the Republican Party and conservatives could connect with on. First was the church, faith. Then would be the issue of choice schools, which also connects faith as well too, and also helping kids in impoverished communities to go to private schools as well. And then the third thing was entrepreneurs. And so I had these committees that I created, that focus on those 2 areas. And doing this job, my faith committee, my uncle-in-law is a pastor, and he knows Pastor Jerome Smith. And that's how we meet. He was part of the pastors that would meet with me every week. And every week they would have a ton of questions about Republicans and Scott Walker, and like, why is this and why is that? At the time, I couldn't do a whole lot because I worked for the party. And a lot of people just didn't understand, like, and I'm just talking, jump in here, man. I'm just going. I'm sorry.
No, keep going. Keep going. I'll jump in, don't worry.
So a lot of people didn't quite understand, and it's not an easy thing to comprehend that when I said I work for the party, people assume you work for Scott Walker.
Right.
I said, no, I work for the Republican Party. You mean Scott Walker? And so I didn't work for Scott Walker, I worked for the state party. So
Sure.
Working for the state party is working for a brand and trying to promote a brand. That brand didn't necessarily mean you had a lot of power to do anything. And so the pastors would say, well, what can you do? I said, well, I can't do a whole lot because I don't work for any particular elected official. And we would meet every week. And I knew a young lady who was part of Ron Johnson's campaign team. On his official side, it was an African-American young lady who left his team. And she got another job or something. And the lady that I knew, she was like, Orlando, Ron is looking for somebody to replace on his team. I said, looking for somebody? Anybody? She's like, well, I said, you can say you want somebody black on this team. But diversity, right? She's like, yeah, he had a diverse staff already. He had an Indian guy from India, had a young lady who was a Native American, had a lot of young ladies, a lot of veterans, and he said, I also wanted to have people of color. And so I said, you can say you want somebody black. It's like, yeah, I do. We wanted somebody black. And so I gave a list of people that I knew who were Republicans or who leaned conservative. And at the time, my project or my job was about to end. And I don't know what happened, but I was like, well, maybe I should have submitted my name too.
Maybe they're looking for me.
Maybe you're looking for me. Yeah. And I actually called the lady back, and I asked her how they filled the position. And she was like, actually, Orlando, they had not filled the position. Why? Are you interested? I said, you know what? Maybe I am. And sure enough, she set up an interview with me and Ron Johnson's chief of staff, Tony Blando. And I met Tony along when I worked for the state party. Him and I clicked right away. FYI, anybody want to work in politics, Find out who the chief of staff is. They're the ones who hire and fire people. If you want to work for an elected official.
Speaking of that, by the way, for those that are not, who are listening in and who are not from Milwaukee or from Wisconsin, who is Mr. Johnson?
Ron Johnson is the senior U.S. senator in our state. He is a second-term senator. He beat a long-time incumbent Russ Feingold. So this is the second term. At the end of this term, he would have served 12 years. He is a manufacturer from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They make like medical plastic devices. But a cool guy. He is an accountant by trade, not a career politician. And if you ever speak to him and get around him, you'll tell he's not a politician by far, but he has a good heart. And one thing I always liked about Ron, you never have to worry about what he's thinking. He's gonna let you know if he likes something or if you don't.
Yep.
And so you don't have to walk away scratching your head. Did he like that? You're like, I don't like that. Or that's good.
Well, in many ways, we need more transparency on all levels of government, for God's sakes. And, pardon me. And I think that's one of the issues we have today is that so many people have hidden agendas, and you never know quite where they're standing. And they'll talk a good game to you. They'll say nice things to your face. They want your donation. They want your vote. But they're not there for you.
Yep.
Not at all. And it seems that more than ever, we have politicians that are there for themselves and will say anything it takes to get themselves elected. And once they're there, they're not remotely interested in advancing the cause of the people. How do you adjust that?
Well, for me, given that I'm running in a district that is Democrat to moderate, when I win in a couple more weeks, every constituent in that district is going to hold me accountable because anything that I don't do that don't line up with the district is going to be of concern. And maybe that's what we should do. If you're a Republican, you have to run in the Democratic district because they're going to hold your feet to the fire and you can't get away from it. Maybe, but what I want to do always is be accountable. I may not have the answer. I may not be able to figure it out, but I want to be able to honestly tell you, I don't know. I don't know about, or I messed up. That probably wasn't the position I should have took it. And I don't have a problem having self-reflection. For me, my understanding of faith kind of also grounds me that I will try my best. You will never hear me say the district, or my constituents. I would always start to try to say the district that I serve, the people that I serve. And that gives me hope, that gives a level of what customer service should be about. And I'm a business guy, so I value that's the benefit of having great customer service. And so I always want to approach the job of being a problem solver, but also being a person that gives great customer service to the people.
Laudable. You, once you are elected, are going to have some significant challenges in front of you. How are you going to work with that?
Well, COVID is real. We're coming out of that thing, and our economy has to bounce back. The school situation is also critical. School funding, the funding equation is always a problem. Big right now is criminal justice reform. We have protests going throughout this country. We are in a very, very tough time, and I think that's one of the things that I do bring to the table is that a steady hand that needs to have the will. Cooler heads have to prevail. And you must have the ability to work in both sides to get stuff done, because we're at that stage in history like no other that I've ever experienced. So I think how I do it is that holding both sides accountable because they both have something to gain. Very transparently, Republicans need more black and brown and working class white people to win statewide and national elections. I can help bring that voter block to the table. On the other end, the district that I serve, and a lot of people that are in the district and also inner cities, they need the resources and they need the policy changes that the Republicans have control of in the legislature. So there's a win-win for each if we can understand there's some value that we both bring to the table. And I think that's where we have to find the common ground. Ron always talked about how and I love when he says it because it's so real, that he doesn't enter into a business meeting in an area of disagreement. He enters a meeting focused on the areas of agreement.
Accord. You have to find some median that we have, so we have something in common. And you have, like anything else in business, it doesn't matter the level that Ron's on or that I'm on or you on, it doesn't matter. anytime you get into that situation, you've got to figure out how this is going to benefit both parties, or it's really going nowhere, right?
And he makes a very astute assessment, which makes it even better. If we can start off on an area of agreement, we start to get to know each other. And so when we get to those areas that we will have disagreement on, those more weightier, more challenging areas, when we disagree, because that's inevitable that you will disagree,
Right.
at least we can disagree and say, I still like the guy. We just disagree on that, but I still like him. Because we had that common ground initially that we started on of a great foundation of a friendship. And that's how you build relationships, even through the thick and the thin, that, we may not agree on this, we may disagree, we might even debate sometimes.
Sure.
I think Ronald Reagan said, we can disagree without being disagreeable. Reagan.
The great communicator.
There
Reagan.
you go.
Good for you. Education. In my mind, the single most important part of our society today, and has been forever, is education. We have to do a much better job in educating everybody at all levels. But that really, the foundation begins in the grade schools, the middle schools, and working their way up. You have to have children who have their butts in the chairs and have support at home, and have the right teachers that are not just there to mark time to get their pensions, but the teachers that are there to educate, motivate, and to bring these young minds forward. So we as a society move forward. Doesn't matter if you're black, brown, white, yellow, it doesn't matter what you are. You have to learn the fundamentals first and continue forth with that. We have a governor, Tony Evers, former superintendent of education, failed at that, so now we've made him our governor. It's a significant recall that's settled on him right now that might or not might come to fruition, but how do we handle some of the shortages in education today?
So for me, I learned early on that my freedom was contingent on my education. Education for me is freedom. It gave me the ability to travel this country and to also make my own way wherever I went. And I had a wicked jump shot too, but I knew education would be the long game. And I had to learn that early in life, quite frankly, seeing other people who didn't quite comprehend that.
Right.
My grandparents really forced that on me, but at the same time, my mom and dad divorced early, so my grandparents, a lot I bounced between both.
Right.
I'm that typical 5'3", 206 kid, evictions, bouncing in and out of homes, bounced from school to school.
Right.
Saw mom go through domestic issues, so I saw that growing up. Drug, alcohol, saw those things. I just had a vision that education had to be a way out. Sports was a way out hugely, and I knew that I couldn't play unless I went to school. That's where all the organized teams were. But as I did that, I also learned that was also going to be my way out of poverty, out of the hood, which is to get a great education. Education is a tough one because we have a system that has not been able to produce the needed skill set to move on to the next level. And I don't bash the teachers, I think the ones who are bad, they definitely need to go. I think the ones who are good, they're overwhelmed. And I'm just a firm believer that we must address the things that are going on in the home before you can really address what's going on in the school, because the school is only a reflection of where these kids come from. Those challenging neighborhoods, those challenging homes.
True indeed.
Been around adult content, adult conversation. Disconnect, in my humble opinion, is that if the mom or dad tried school and it didn't work for them,
chances are
they won't be great salespeople.
Right.
To say you should do this because it didn't work for me. My grandparents were part of that culture in which black people wasn't allowed to go to school.
Okay.
And so they instilled that you was going to go to school because they was against the law for them to go to school. They didn't know how to do my homework for me or whatever the case may be, but they knew you had to get it because it was something that these white folk didn't want you to have. So it must be something good to it.
Right.
So, I'm not a firm believer also in the whole idea, well, if mom is not educated, then she wouldn't value. My grandparents weren't educated like that, but they valued and they saw it. There has to be something that drives them to say, this is why I do. As you can't tell now, but the jump shot and the running ability and the catching used to be pretty good. And the only reason we, as athletes, we go through what we go through because we want to be able to make the team.
Right.
That was the goal. If you do your summer workout, you want to make the team.
Right.
You make the team, you want to start. You start, you want to win. You win the one, you want to win it all. So you always have that carrot in front of you of why we continue to achieve. But when you don't have that connection, that if I graduate, there's no jobs here in Milwaukee, and due to local leadership from Tom Barrett and a lot of the local people here, Democrats on some levels just have not done a good job.
Lack of leadership.
The lack of leadership,
Right.
lack of vision.
Yep.
When these people graduated, there was nothing there.
Right.
So over time, the value of like, why do I go to school to be broke like my cousin who dropped out? So then I might as well not even go.
So in so many ways, these three components are laced together. They're all linked together. So it's education, it's the justice of social injustice that we have taking place in this country, and it's the lack of employment or opportunities for employment, right?
Right.
So you really have to juggle them almost at the same time and find a way to get them all in the air and get things kind of move at some point. But you need movement to begin, right? So is that movement going to begin with the education? Is it going to begin with providing jobs for people? And then, hope that shortly thereafter the other justice issues come online? Or what's there has to be something
a chicken or
to
the egg came
chicken
first,
and
right?
egg, right.
So for me, I would say, since I'm a full proponent of gainful employment and family-sustaining jobs, I think we must first address the employment because you have to see some success. And these adults have to see success in order for them to take control of home life and their immediate surroundings again. So you have to get them. You got to have them some buy-in.
Okay.
They may not buy into education initially, but they got to make some wins in life.
Yes.
And that win could be just that paycheck. That like, I don't have to get a W-2 check anymore. I don't have to be on rent assistance anymore.
Some of that employment opportunity could be as simple as providing transportation for people to get from point A to get to point B, right? And until you can provide a system for them, as opposed to this luxury streetcar that goes around in a loop and does nothing,
the trolley.
right? So
trolley.
you could have taken that money, that federal money, and you could have used that to enhance something as fundamental as transportation to get people from their houses into where the jobs are, right? Now, that money is spent. We have the streetcar. So what can we do now to facilitate something to get transportation for people to get them to where the jobs are? Because the economy is going to come back.
I mean, you are reading my handbook, man. So the creation of the Joseph Project, what made it unique is that we found opportunities that were outside Milwaukee and Milwaukee County.
Yep.
But the barrier that there was transportation. So me being a church kid, much more so later in life, I knew that churches had vans. And they would stay parked primarily the whole week, except for Sundays and Wednesday night Bible study.
Sure.
The Joseph Project made that happen by saying we connect them to jobs because we have transportation. Until we figure this whole transit system out and having trust there, because make no mistakes, people get kind of funny having a bus that can come any time of night and and it's open to the public and coming out to my community. But if you had a shuttle that was taking you back and forth and that was the only place that thing was stopping,
Absolutely.
people say, then I don't have a problem with that.
53206 to Waukesha, that's where the jobs are, right?
Exactly, and bring them back.
Menominee Falls, whatever, yep.
And so that was the linchpin for us at Joseph Project, so we connect people. And one of the things we say, one of our models was that we connect existing opportunities. I'm sorry, I said this wrong. People who genuinely want an opportunity to opportunities that already exist. I see my friend walking in there. So that transportation piece was huge. And so we have a blueprint to success already. And so that's something big for us. And you're right, how do we connect people? And I think we still continue to have the flexible transportation program that Governor Walker started. And I think Governor Evers is still flirting with it, but having these flexible means of transportation, not so much a huge bus line, but these smaller vans, smaller shuttles, because they kind of took our model and said that kind of works. And now, 5 years later into the Joseph Project, we have probably 25 companies that we work with, hundreds of employees that have gotten jobs, and some have not made it, but also we have a lot of success. And these jobs are averaging $15.50 an hour on up, entry level, no skills necessary, and also felon friendly. So the program is open to anybody, but we have a huge population of people who are, this is 53206, the most incarcerated zip code in the world.
Yes.
Not like, the nation or the nation is bad enough, but in the world.
Yeah.
And so you cannot have that type of incarceration and these individuals still be released to our community and, no jobs, no transportation. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to eat or find a way to eat to survive because they have to. And so we have a lackluster leadership or vision, or leadership that lacks vision, to say, what do you do with all this manpower that we have? And so one of the things the Joseph Project does, we also work with the House of Corrections, guys who are currently on Huber. And these guys work every day and they come home. I'm sorry, they go back to the House of Corrections. But you may not, you probably know this, but just the amount of talent that's locked up. Forget about job creation. We got jobs right now we can't fill. Manufacturing people say, well, it's dying. We got jobs right now that offer these young people opportunity to come work and also send them back to school.
We've spent decades incarcerating people for some of the most idiotic things imaginable. And what that did is that that created paper on them, of course, so that prohibited them getting jobs, and they're hogtied for something that really, in the big picture, is truly insignificant. And that's a travesty by itself.
Yep.
So, there obviously is the justice portion of that you have to juggle with as well.
Yep.
So, all right, I'll agree with you that jobs are the first thing. You have to get jobs, you got people employed, get them a monetary stream because you got to pay for things. You got to buy food to your family, you got to provide for things, you need shelter, you need whatever. And this is a great opportunity for that. Now, that's moving forward. Then is the emphasis going to be education?
So once you start to get ownership of things,
right?
Once you start having, so a great paying job does a lot for self-esteem.
Absolutely.
So you will see even domestic issues will go down.
Yep.
Because if he don't want you, baby, you got your own good paying job, leave him, because the next working man gonna recognize a good woman when he see one.
Agreed. Same
thing for vice versa. Hey, bro, if she don't want you, you don't have to kill her, hurt her, mistreat them kids.
Move
if
on.
she don't want you, the next good woman who working, she gonna recognize that you're a good man, got a good paying job.
Yep.
I'll take you.
Yep.
So it starts to stabilize the community.
Right.
And once you start to have people who buy in, have ownership of things, naturally they will say, you must now own your destiny, baby.
Right.
You're going to school.
Right.
Because mama goes to work every day. You're going to go. And I'm also not going to lose what we got going to come to school to make certain that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Because I can't miss this money because I'm making good money now.
Yep.
I don't want to, live in poverty no more.
Right.
Once people get a taste of freedom, it's hard. You can't put in a wild horse back in the barn. And once he takes freedom, you can't do nothing with him.
Cannot agree more. So again, getting back to our current leadership, we have Mayor Tom Beard, a very nice man, but I think in many ways, as we discussed the other day, poorly equipped to run a major city or company or anything else that matter. And I think that at his advanced age and health concerns, he should just step aside. And if that means that Chevy Cavalier Johnson comes to the forefront right now as the Common Council president, I'm all for that. I'm for fresh ideas. I'm for fresh things, and we have to find a way to move ahead for the people. It's all the people.
Yep.
And that's not going to happen if we keep this ensconced with the same group that we have that has been leading us in way the wrong direction. Now, the justice end.
Justice. Okay, so I am a proponent of the First Step Act, what the current president has done. I like it. Some will say, because we had Vice President Joe Biden, he said he started the program many years ago. I don't really care who started it. I'm more concerned of who got it done. I think that we can. I think we can lessen sentencing up for marijuana charges, not make it so much a criminal thing. Governor Walker one time made small amounts of marijuana misdemeanors, but it was left up to the discretion of the local DA.
Right.
If people don't know, 53206 has a DA that, well, let me say it this way, a party that has been the DA for over 40 to 50 years in Milwaukee, from E. Michael McCann to John Chisholm, who's also part of the E. Michael McCann School of Thought.
Yep.
These men, who are good Democrats, locked up black men left and right. And DA Chisholm is running unopposed in November. So I want to look at how we do, those weed charges. I also want to look at how we do, I think having great paying jobs, it takes away the desire to get money in the street, right? Now, will you have some who do it? Sure, you will, but that number would be less. If men had good paying jobs, I'm preaching right now. I'm preaching right now. If men had good paying jobs, they will love these women and be coming home every day.
Hallelujah, brother.
They're working, they love to come, and then you don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder how you made your money. You don't have to worry about getting pulled over. You know, you can check this car. I don't care, because even if you want to rob me of this car, I don't care, because it's insured. Take it, man. Hey, keep her under 50 because she shake at 55. I don't care about this car. Take it. I get another one tomorrow. That freedom is what I'm talking about. So as a black college grad, that 4 years of school really impounded me of like where the sky has no limit. And I didn't have to just look at it like, I can only do this. That experience in my life took my imagination. I was already driven, but it took my imagination to where I can go. That I, as a black man in America, I can do anything I want to. Now, is there issues? Sure. America's not perfect. But I'll tell you that I wouldn't want to be nowhere else, though. I may want to visit, might want to hang out, but I wouldn't want to be nowhere else. And she's not perfect. America's not perfect. Don't get me wrong.
Well, there is no utopia. By definition, there is no utopia.
Correct.
Nothing ever is perfect. It can't be perfect.
Right. But I think we do have to change our judicial system. We look at our judges, who we elect. I look at the first-time offender program, criminal justice, first-time defenders, deferred prosecution. Also, I'm not a big supporter of cops in school, because you have a cop in school. Cops do what cops do. They write tickets. And now we start the pipeline from high school or school to prison by getting police officers involved. Now you got a ticket. Now you can't get a driver's license. Now I'm going to drive it illegally, because as a 16, 17-year-old, that's what everybody want to do when they get to the driving age. So now I don't have licenses, so I'm going to drive anyway.
Plus, that also impedes your ability to get a job if you can't drive to get there.
Exactly. So
It
it
all
starts
works
a
together.
sick cycle.
All works together.
And I think so we have to start looking at criminal justice to be more. So I've been working with a group called the Council of Floyd.
Okay.
It's a group of retired black officers.
Okay.
And also community leaders that created this, I guess is a safe space basically, that people can come and talk who typically hadn't been talking before. So for the last 4.5 months, Speaker Robin Vos, for those who don't know, he's a speaker here in Wisconsin. Republicans have the majority. And he has been working with this group through me, listening to different ideas around criminal justice reform, policing, mental health, because that's a huge thing, housing, education, health in general. And so I think we have to have professionals who don't have necessarily a political agenda to say, well, how do we fix it? How do we address mental health? Mental health is huge. I know there was a big push when we went away from having a mental health hospital. We didn't want that. People thought that you were warehousing people with challenges. So they downsized and made these smaller little satellites. And
mental health has to be the biggest issue facing us in America today. And then you take this pressure cooker of COVID where everybody is locked away for 3 months and can't get out, can't do anything. If you have a job, you can't get to your job. You can't go to the store. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't do anything. That just exacerbates the situation, right? So now what are people going to do, right?
Right.
People have to be people at some point, right? We're not designed to sit in a small 400 square foot space. I've long maintained that what we need are statesmen, not politicians. And there's a significant difference. And it seems to me that you are poised to be that statesman. So I guess now that we have identified some things that you have identified that could be the solution to many things. And it all starts somewhere. How do we help you to start this movement here in the 53206 district and to move forward? How do we help you to get elected? How do we help you to move the campaign?
Sure. I think people like you who allow these platforms to happen, that can broadcast this message out to as many people who are listening or watching, that they can always go to my website, Orlando4WI, which stands for Wisconsin.com, and donate. We are in a very tough challenge to raise money in a seat that we we shouldn't win. But I believe there is a taste for change, a taste for solutions. People are tired of just empty talk and rhetoric. The issues, the stakes are too high.
They are.
We need to understand, and we have to play chess or checkers. That's what I tell people on the doors. The old folk used to say in life that there's a difference between something good to you and good for you. Now, sending up another person from a Democratic side may feel good to you, but Orlando, the Republican, may be good for you. because I have the ability to bring everybody together. So helping me out, volunteering. And if you don't live, now people please don't say, well, I don't live in this area. You know, the thing about money is this, my friend. Money is obedient. Wherever you tell it to do, it does. You say go there, it does. They say jump, it says how high. So if you're listening in California, New York, Alabama, wherever you are, man, go to my website, check me out on Facebook, do what you can. Most importantly, pray for me. I believe that there's a lot riding on this election locally. As local, Tip O'Neill, Democrat, said that, you know, politics are local, had the most impact. I mean, he was a Democrat, right? So that you know, we have to be so fixated on the national election and Biden and Trump. I'm like, hey, that's gonna handle itself. People pretty much made their mind up. The local politicians, your school boards, your aldermen, your state reps, your county supervisors, if you're not involved in these local races and you're more fixated on this national election that has, I mean, very little that happens locally. I mean, it plays a role, but the people who have most impact are the people right here in your local backyard.
Milwaukee County Sheriff, black man. Police Chief, City of Milwaukee, black man. The Common Council President in Milwaukee, black man, who will be the acting mayor as soon as Mr. Barrett steps aside.
There you go.
County exec, black man.
Yes, sir.
We're moving in the right direction.
I think we are.
Got a ways to go.
I think we are, and I like, you know, where it is. The superintendent of highway troopers, black man. So there's a lot of diversity happening in Wisconsin for the most segregated city. There's a lot of diversity happening. And I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic of the leadership. I hope people have the mindset of getting things done, and not so much as partisan lens that you get so tired of it. You know, I can't rock with you because you got on that shirt. You can't rock. It's not like we fight like we're in a gang or something. And it's so not what really unifies the people. And you know, because I don't care if it's a Democrat idea or a Republican idea or an independent idea.
If it's a good idea, let's make it happen.
That's all I'm concerned about. This is help folk. Because I can care less, man. And I tell people when I'm on doors, man, I'm not so wrapped up in these parties like that. I see real life. People like getting killed and shot in the street, not eating, being evicted, going through mental health. I don't care about that party stuff, man. These people are asking for solutions.
Right.
If I can get to enough people in the next, you know, less than 60 days or 60 days, 2 months, to get people there to say, Orlando, I'm gonna give you a shot. The one thing about the term is a 2-year term. Give me a shot, let's see what happens. Roll the dice one time with me. Give me a shot, America. Who all's listening, give me a shot.
Doesn't that sound reasonable? So, Orlando, it's been a treat having you on. And if you don't mind, can you come back in a month or so? We'll see how your status is moving, how you're moving ahead.
Man, this is my new hangout. I got one of my volunteers with me. I like the Shakers, man. You're good people over here. Hey, come get the Sprecher. The root beer is good. The cigars are on point. I ain't tried the food yet, and I heard the liquor pour slow. So,
Orlando, thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother.
Cheers to you.
You got it, man.